Hello world, welcome to my channel, Proteus Augustus. I'm an artist, scientist, and American Constitutionist. And today is February 3rd, 2024. Today I'm going to continue my How the Universe Works videos. This is going to be part 4 or number 4. And this is going to be part 1 of part 4. I have to break this up into 2 videos because the second one might get a little longer and I don't want to lose anybody's attention. But before I get into that part, I need to discuss a few things for a few moments. So I'm going to do several things today. And in order for me to do what I had, the presentation I'm going to do today required years of my education, personal education, and how I think, right? So to say that somehow an education is not good or secondhand to a vocation, to me, is not the question. The question is what's going on in that quantum computer between that person's ears, because that's what we have. They're just slow and low wattage. They're never going to make a machine that can do what this man did 3,000 years ago, right? But in order for me to tell you his story, I just have to put a shout out to Professor Keating over there at San Diego because a couple of minutes into one of his videos, he showed this papyrus painting. Never seen it before, right? But the minute I saw it, I knew exactly what it was. I'm like, this is unbelievable, right? This is cool. Right now, I had to prove to myself I was seeing what I was seeing because I guess the word on the street is this is cosmology, mythology, or whatever. That's not what this is. Now, I can't see the whole scroll, and there may be some other rustic signs and other hieroglyphs that I can't see. But the ones that I'm reading, the guy's very clear what he's saying. So I'm going to use the standard way of deciphering hieroglyphs. However, what you have to understand is a few things. Number one, you have to put yourself in the right time period. So this guy is about 1000 BC, which gives him access to more glyphs, right? Hieroglyphs, so that he can represent more, right? Now, when you study hieroglyphs, right, and their language, right, there's a couple things you got to understand. Number one, they don't have words, right, for meanings like we do today. Like when I was doing this yesterday, I don't know if it was the caffeine or what, but I was excited. After I deciphered the glyphs and everything, and looked at his artistic technique, because then I'm going to have to bring that knowledge in too, right? Because he's saying a lot with his artistic technique. He is being very specific, right? Because this is the best they can do, right? For him to tell his story. Now, along with that, I did a presentation up there behind my back on the canvas. And I'm going to introduce my quantum field theory into his painting, right? And so I'm going to bring all that in, right? Now, listen, this is like a wire schematic for a car you got, right? You walk in your car, you don't see nothing, right? Right? But if you do see the wires, it ain't like what's on the paper. It's a schematic, right? So this guy, right, he is giving us the nuts and bolts. That's all he can do. And there's other things that I'll do there, right? But so I'm like I said, I'm going to use the standard way to break the glyphs and to, and I'll explain that as I go along. Okay. Um, but I just want to make a point on, the way I view things. Like, I'm onto this thing that some of these other scientists are saying, right? That they work in concepts, they don't work in pictures. Um, it only took me about an hour to learn how to decipher hieroglyphs, along with my history knowledge that I've been educated on and that I further took on Egyptian art, twisted perspective, and all of that. But the glyphs, the hieroglyphs, it only took me a couple of hours, man. It was like a second language to me because I think in pictures. My problem when I was a kid wasn't, you know, putting a word on something and then putting the word in my brain. My problem was I'm seeing all these images and pictures, even some stuff that I don't know how they're seeing it. Like today, if I see a car, I don't just see a car. I know everything inside of it, how it works, everything. I mean, that's what I do in my time. So when I see a car, I see more than what you're seeing, right? Or I guess some of these scientists, they see a picture and in their head there's a word or a concept. I'm the other way around. I needed a picture. I needed a word to go with the picture in my head. You get what I'm saying? So in a way, art is that way. And my earlier, my art pieces in general, these last two that I just put on, these canvases aren't the best canvases, and I would rather use my multi-science and my polymathic abilities to reach as many people as possible and keep them interested in what I'm doing. So this isn't really a painting; it's a presentation, but I did it all in ink. So it's more of a graphic representation, I call it. It's in ink and it's in pencil, and so one thing you have to understand about Egyptian art right off the top is twisted perspective, right? Right. So sometimes the way they do the art or the glyphs really matter, right? They have to be deliberate. They don't use any depth perception in their their flat art. In their relief works, obviously, right? But when they're doing flat work, like instead of a relief, when they're carving in glyphs and all that, right? Or when they're writing script or whatever, right? So it's important to understand the direction that you go when you read stuff. And it's important to understand that he can make what appears to be a man up there, right? And I'll explain to you how I break that down. That's not a man. It looks like a man, but I'll explain to you how I break it down. Right now, some people might think that's a stretch, but it's still based on the basic way to break it down. You just have to be able to get in this guy's mind 3 years ago as an artist and see how he's using color schemes to associate behaviors with each other. Other people around him might not be thinking that way, but there was 8 of them, and he was one of them. He either did it himself or they hired somebody to do this painting. But again, very deliberate, right? Keep that in mind. So if there's no glyph and there's plenty around his period to say what a god is or all of that, right? Or some emotions, like I'll tell you right up front that there's a phallus symbol in here, but that's how he's spelling out what he's spelling out because they have several phallus symbols that mean different things. And this one is actually a word, right? So it's important to understand that this isn't like, people just need to be adults and understand this is the way they communicated, right? So they couldn't really establish between, let's say, being ebullient versus being excited, right? Or even being apprehensive at the thought, or being scared to death or actually dying, right? So they don't have all of these different words in the symbols, right? They can spell it out, right? But he's not writing the trustees here. This is like something they're just putting on the wall to remind themselves. This guy is the landowner, right? Him and his other guys, the other 7 guys, right? They're beloved. I'll break it for you. It's just unbelievable, man. But it just goes to show you how valuable the actual corporeal world is. I'd like to know where this was found and who it was found with, because I don't see how this survived without it being in someone's tomb or something. But this guy's legit, man. He knew what he saw. He ain't playing. All right? He just trying to tell us this is the best I got, man. and, and um and I think it's a very substantial work of art for human history. I really do. Because not only is he bringing art in, he's also bringing physics into it, even though he can't explain it. But I'm going to show it to you in a broad way. You have no idea how much it would cost to build one of these ships, man. And I don't know if you all got the technology yet. And I ain't going to tell you all how to make these quantum field densities, but that's where the gig is at. Right? So the only other comment I want to make before I go forward in similarities that I don't want to get to in the presentation is that guy in the 80s or whatever that said he saw some orb and it went on a mantle. Now, I can't dispute that with him. I really can't, because I never seen this before and I was way ahead of this guy. I'm waiting to see what these dudes are coming up with and what they're saying. Now, he might have saw something. Maybe the scroll was where, listen, the Romans found a lot of stuff, man. Where is it? Could be in the Vatican. Who knows? Maybe that's why nobody ever took over the Vatican. Maybe that's why they're their own country. It ain't because everybody in the world's Christians. They want to knock me off. I'm trying to survive. I got guns being pulled on me out here. And I'm trying to give what I got to you. Right? It's crazy. It's just crazy, right? So, anyways, that's what I got in this pot. And so, what you're going to need an understanding of or an interest in, because it's not that difficult and you don't have to actually know this. I'm going to break it down for you. It's simple. It's not that complicated to tell his story and to show you where I'm going with what I'm going. The question is, how far can I go? Right, with you people, right? And whether I think that you can actually accomplish making one of these ships, right? Because it's doable, right? But I'm out here flailing around and everybody thinks I'm some kind of boob, but whatever, you tell me. You tell me. I'll continue to go, right? And if you want to challenge me on anything I say today with respect to breaking this guy's story and what he's saying, right? He's talking about how it's actually working. He's not just saying he was on a ship and he was excited. He's saying what he observed and how to him, it functioned, right? It's amazing. It's astounding. All right, so I hope you see the second one. See you in a bit.